Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, we are recording. So, welcome everyone to this month's Helium community call. So just a couple of quick things. This call is being recorded. You'll be able to find the recording afterwards on both YouTube and in the Discord. Don't worry about that. If you miss part of it, we'll have it for you. We have our note taker. That is Waveform. So thank you very much for taking notes today. And if there is any agenda items you want to add, questions or anything like that, feel free to ping Waveform, and he can assist you with that. And if you have any questions throughout this call as well, we will have a question section at the end of the call. That guy is great. Yes. So first off, I want to start with what this community call is. So basically, it's once a month, last Wednesday of the month. We go through what's going on in the Helium network overall. So any updates from Foundation, from grants, events, and comms, any updates about the makers, and then any engineering updates, and any Helium improvement proposals that are either implemented, going to be implemented, that are being proposed, anything like that. This is a time for us to discuss them. So moving forward, just another quick thing I wanted to mention is Discord safety. I've been pushing this lately. There's a lot of scams going around in the general crypto space, and we are no different here. So on Discord, there's a lot of people trying to get access to your wallet and drain your account. Specifically, there's a lot of clones of people like myself, Waveform, Foundation team members, moderators. Please, please, please know that we will not DM you. There is no person that will reach out to you that is support. You'll see Helium support is DMing you. It's a scam. Do not connect with DMs. Do not input your 12 or 24-word phrase into any site, no matter how many times that person may say it is secure and private. It is not. Keep that to yourself. Please keep any questions in public. If the person wants to assist you, you can keep it in public and have that conversation there. If you want to verify that person is real, in our public Discord here, click on the person's name. It'll tell you their roles. If you're unsure, ask a moderator, ask myself, in public, please. So just a quick reminder there. All right, so now that that's over, we're going to bring up Scott for Foundation membership, and he's already up here. Hi, Scott.
I'm here. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So quick update on membership. So our first cohort has been onboarded. We've got over a dozen members for 2024. So thank you to all the organizations that are coming in to support Foundation, but also very much partner with us on how we continue to educate, advocate, tell the story of the Helium network really through all the amazing products and services that are running on top of the network. It's really the best way that we tell the story about network utility is really through our members, and excited to continue doing that. We are still ironing out logistics for the enthusiast tier. I know some folks have come in, so we're still excited to create a collaborative space for individual members, very much around kind of promotion and education. So more details to come on that soon. Want to make sure we had things ironed out with our commercial and industrial sponsors, members. We are working closely, again, around very much promotion. We've got several events already lined up for the year. I think Nikki is coming up shortly to talk a little bit about that, so we're not going to steal his thunder. We're also targeting a mid-year hackathon, very focused on IoT applications, so excited to work with some of the members around that. Also continuing to leverage our comms team, our public relations resources. Again, this is all about how do we tell the story of decentralized wireless networks, talk about how members are bringing new products and services where there's economic and social and civic benefits. So very excited about the year ahead. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to membership at helium.com. helium.foundation. Keenan or Adrian, if you can drop that into chat. But we're well underway. So a lot of events, different interactive engagements coming. So please reach out if you're curious about getting involved, and we'll have more updates coming soon. And Nikki will talk about events shortly. So I think that is all on membership for now.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Just one quick note here. I see the Discord notification did go out. So welcome everyone to the Helium community call. You didn't miss much, but if you want to go back to the last couple of minutes, this call is recorded. And Hashcode, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, so really just wanted to reiterate what Scott said around membership. Really appreciate all the folks who have joined on as members of the foundation. We are a US-based 501c6, so we are a trade organization. That is, our primary objective is to help benefit this network, and some of that is through membership. So really appreciate that, and definitely use the resources to use. Some of our members have basically been on calls directly with our PR firm and are able to help release press releases and sort of use those benefits to your as members. It's a great resource for folks, especially for small teams.
Great, thank you. Goodbye. And yes, did not cover there will be a formal announcement coming soon that is actually announcing new members across the various tiers. Keenan, actually, should I just keep going with grant update?
Yep, absolutely. I was just going to say, go ahead.
Okay, great. So short one. This is a very brief grant program update. So last year, we shared that we were going to have to scale back the grant program, mostly due to resource constraints within the foundation. The intention was always to be open to opportunities that supported the growth of the network, whether through education, case studies, research with very tangible outcomes. So that was always our intention. We've had some various conversations, different opportunities. We are in the final stages of actually approving a very exciting project as a great use case on the IoT network. Ideally, we should have more to share on that next month, but contracts are not finalized, so I don't want to spill the beans on that yet. But I'd say, for now going forward, the grant program is open to opportunities, not scaled up to what it had been in the past, but that is the direction we're hoping to get to over the next few years. I would say for now, biggest area of interest is applications in the IoT network, especially ones that focus on consumer and small business usability. We'll put out some more updates around this as we continue to scale back up on the grant side. But I would say for now, if there are any questions, interested teams can reach out to grants@helium.foundation. I'll put that in chat in a moment. Or if anybody is just interested in supporting the grant program in general in any capacity, happy to always chat and jump in around that. Same email is fine. But program is not closed, just we had scaled back and still looking at various opportunities. So reach out if you've got some exciting use cases.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. I did put that email address in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Keenan. And that is all for grants.
Perfect. All right. Solana Scribes 2024. Joey, if you can give us a rundown.
Yeah. So it's been an exciting month. At the beginning of February, we kicked off, the entire Solana ecosystem kicked off a hackathon called Solana Scribes. This was focused primarily on content creation around sort of in a written form. So there were some tracks for writing things like poems and all sorts of stuff like that. Specifically, the Helium Foundation, we came in and sponsored a track to support the Helium documentation. And for folks that have been around for a while, you may remember that throughout the Solana migration, a lot of the infrastructure changed, which left a lot of the documentation out of date. And so this was an opportunity for the Helium community and the Solana ecosystem to come in and make some contributions in docs, or maybe make some first contributions in docs to sort of see how that process works. And in supporting this hackathon, the foundation has put up $15,000 worth of tokens. So this is 5,000 of HNT, IoT, and mobile. And the way that this hackathon was structured was that all of the participants who have merged pull request would be eligible for a portion of that total prize pool. And so our end of month deadline is tomorrow. It's the end of February, is a whole month-long hackathon. And so we will be, well, I'm frankly in a mad rush to get as many pull requests merged and reviewed as possible. If anyone has outstanding requested changes, please do take a look at those to make sure we can get those things merged. But we will be tabulating the prizes and hitting people up for KYC information and some sort of final details there. It is not too late. So there's one more day. So if anyone wants to jump in there and clarify or fix something, please feel welcome. You can get started. There's a documentation channel here in Discord. And also there's some details on the Solana Scribes website, as well as a issue in the GitHub for docs that gives a little bit of details as well. But best place to get started if you're sort of curious would just be that documentation channel, and we can kind of point you in the right direction from there. So there's been a bunch of cool contributions. I'd encourage people just to go browse around docs. Namely, like the company Top Ledger added a bunch of charts that add a lot of detail to various content on the page. And then we've seen some rewrites of things like mobile network and things like that. Yeah, Scott, thank you for adding that issue is the best place to get a little glimpse there. So yeah, that's all from me. It's been a really cool turnout, and excited to see sort of continued contributions in our documentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Joey. Appreciate the update there. All right. We're going to move on to events and comms report. We're going to bring up, I love it, British guy. Come on, British guy.
Hi there, everyone. How are you doing? Everyone hear me okay?
Yep,
It
we can
should
hear
be
you.
fine. Excellent. So I see lots of new faces out there that I've not seen before. For those that I've not met, and some many familiar, I'm British guy, also known as Nikki. I touch and work with everything to do with events. And as Scott mentioned earlier, we've got a summer hackathon in the planning, mid-year, so I'll be looking after that as well. But we've got a couple of really exciting events coming up during April. So I think I'll give you a quick update there. Joey and Amy will be both attending both of these events. The first one is Embedded World, Nuremberg, Germany. That runs from the 9th to the 11th of April. They'll be there alongside RAC, and they'll be located in Hall 3, Stand 600, which is in the M2M machine-to-machine zone. So that'd be exciting to go there, meet with all the people that are around, and connect. If you're in town in that location, be sure to head on over. And the other one will be over Hanover Messe in Germany, which will take place the 22nd to the 26th of April. Again, Amy and Joey will be attending, and that's in partnership with Uplink and Heliotics. And what they plan to do for that event is to actually deploy the sensors around the exhibition hall, and then at the booth, show real-time data around the conference in real time. So that's going to be pretty cool. Set up some CO2 sensors, the trash cans, monitoring people counters, that sort of thing, and have that real time data for the participants in the hall to see. And they're going to be located in Hall 14, stand H06. And that's the largest conference by square foot in the world. So if you're attending that one, make sure you take some trainers and some good shoes, because that's going to be a lot of walking around. At each of the events, there are probably some small giveaways or some interesting giveaways there. So keep an eye out on socials. If you're there in person, be sure to attend. And if you're not, then be sure to keep an eye out on the socials to help amplify those messages. And Joey and Amy will be around in Europe for a couple of weeks there. So if you're around, feel free to reach out and see if you can't set up a meeting with them both. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to meeting lots of people as well. And that is about it on events for this month. I'll give you another update with many other events that are coming down the pipeline next month.
Fantastic. Thank you, British guy. And just want to note, there was a comment that said it would have been hilarious if British guy had an American accent. I laughed way too hard at that. Should try that next time.
Next time.
Thank you very much, though. Okay, Scott, we're going to have you back up again for a maker's update, please.
Okay, back again. All right, so general update from the maker ecosystem. So first is that Foundation is continuing to work with IoT makers for onboarding credit top-ups. You can review those balances in Dune dashboards, which again, sorry, Keen and Adrian put you guys in the spot. If you can just drop in the maker dashboard on Dune so folks can see what those balances look like. I mentioned this in January, I believe. We are expecting to formalize contractual obligations with makers in March. So for folks that don't have context in this, historically, the Manufacturing Compliance Committee had an ethics agreement, which unfortunately left us with not too many tools to enforce appropriate behavior around expectations of makers. Since that group is no longer active, Foundation has taken basically taken the helm around relationships with makers and putting obligations in place where makers would have requirements around onboarding credits, firmware updates, some reasonable level of responsiveness. That would allow us to actually have another tool versus just revoking a maker key, where that ultimately does harm hotspot owners. So contractual obligations coming soon will allow us to make some more movements around the IoT maker ecosystem, but focus has really just been making sure we can improve around onboarding credit top-ups, and hopefully everybody has been able to see that over the last few months. We did have some questions around Nebra's 5G gateway. So although so Nebra was approved as a 5G maker back in March 22nd of last year. So different process. This was kind of run through MCC. Their maker account is not set up correctly to onboard hotspots. So they're going to need to complete the steps as defined in HIP 53 to be a maker that can appropriately onboard 5G hotspots, which includes the 50 million mobile lockup, plus enough data credits in their account and other steps that they'll need to execute on chain. So that said, this is something that I've seen coming up this week. I am in touch with the Nebra team. So we are going to have some time to chat over the next week to figure out what that path forward looks like, and we'll update the community thereafter. So on our radar and is being prioritized over the next week. Related, Rack Wireless is in the final stages for a mobile hotspot approval. We are awaiting their pen testing results, which I think are almost through. They will stake the 15 million mobile tokens per HIP 53. And then the next step will be the vote within the mobile subnetwork, which should be coming in the next few weeks, I think, as far as the timeline. So more on that coming soon, but that is high level what's happening on the maker ecosystem.
Cool. Thanks again, Scott.
You got it. Thanks, Keenan.
Okay, next up, we've got our engineering update from Noah.
Yeah, so got a few things going on. The biggest one right now is we're kind of revamping the modular governance or Helium Vote UI that's on desktop and web. And then we're also probably going to do some refining on what's going on inside the wallet app version of those things. And then for the wallet app specifically, we have a new update coming through, specifically targeted at kind of hurting these scammers. One of the things that they tend to do is they create websites that look legitimate, and then they have you sign a transaction, and that basically rugs everything from your wallet. So we've created a pretty sophisticated tool for simulating these transactions and trying to figure out whether or not they're going to, try and rug you. Now, the other thing with this is going to be kind of a big education piece, and we're going to write some docs on this. But the short of this is that Solana transaction simulations are not necessarily reliable, because what happens when your transaction hits the chain can be different than the state on the chain when you simulated it. So we've seen on Solana these attacks called bit flip attacks, where basically they have a program on chain that has a boolean on it that says rug or not rug. And when you're simulating the transaction, it says don't rug. And then as soon as they're about to send the transaction, they flip that bit to say that they're going to rug you. Now, this means that like the token amounts that you see in simulation just can never be trusted. But what you can trust in a simulation, and what we're going to start showing and other wallets don't, is which accounts are actually writable, which accounts can change. Because one of the unique parts of Solana's transaction model is it actually labels all of the accounts that can change. So if your USDC account, for example, is not labeled as writable, they just can't change it. And so this new tool will allow you to see, like, hey, I'm doing a transaction that I expect to swap an NFT for Sol, and for some reason my HNT, my mobile, my IoT, and every other one of my token accounts is labeled as writable. And it's not showing that they're going to change, but like, why are those writable? And that's suspicious. So this will be coming out in Wallet App v270. As along with some more educational materials to help people learn how to use this. So this is kind of, there's two ways that you get your wallet rugged. The first way is giving away your, seed phrase, your secret words. And then the second way is them getting you to sign a malicious transaction. So this is sort of helping with the latter.
Hey, Noah, is all this open?
Oh yeah, and it's all open source. It's a pretty cool library. It's called Sus, and we're working with a few other wallets to see if they want to use it as well.
Cool. Thanks, Noah. Sorry, when did you say that update was coming out again?
We'll probably push it to the App Store for review soon. I'd say probably within the next week or so.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
And has Realms totally gone, Noah?
Oh yeah. Realms is completely gone. We closed all the votes that were still kind of stuck in Realms, keeping people from closing their positions. So yeah, Realms is dead. Don't go there. Don't use it. Either use heliumvote.com or use the wallet app.
And just a quick note on that as well. I did make a short video of how to lock up tokens and how to vote. You can find that on the Foundation YouTube if you had questions about it. Okay. We're going to talk about the Hotspot API. Joey, one more time.
Yeah. So this is actually a little bit old news, but I wanted to make sure we surfaced it on this call. So a couple of months back, the Helium Foundation published this, which we've kind of been calling internally, a static API, but it does a lot of fairly lightweight things to support various hotspot actions on the network. So it is not a fully fledged API in the sense that it's going to give hourly rewards and all of the things that folks may have seen in previous versions of APIs. But it does a couple of really critical things, such as give the hotspot inventory for the entire Helium network, as well as individual hotspot metrics, such as its active or inactive state, its location, as well as even a reverse geo lookup of the hotspots themselves. And so that is a really helpful tool for sort of a number of folks in the ecosystem. This goes from LNS operators all the way to Explorer operators who may need a sort of quick reference for hotspot inventory. And this has been designed in a way to operate in a pretty lightweight manner. And so sorry, I gotta stop looking at the chat. It's so distracting. The metrics update once a day, and then they are cached pretty heavily on that daily basis. So anything that you see on this API is caveated with that sort of a reference. And then one fun detail is we will also be adding new endpoints to support OUIs on the network. And so this will allow folks to look up the specific OUIs, the keys associated with them, as well as the escrow account, which closes a couple of gaps for folks that were not looking forward to resolving program-derived addresses on Solana. So that's a little bit on the hotspot API. And then I guess I can roll into another sort of similar topic. As a backfill for the previous blockchain API, we've gone through and dug up a snapshot of the entire Helium L1. I just dropped that link in there and seeded that out as a torrent. So there's effectively a massive CSV that maps all of the transactions from the Helium L1. And then folks can download that and run whatever sort of science they want across that CSV. For anyone who is, sort of data hoarder like myself, I would encourage you to take a peek at that and consider seeding it for other folks on the Helium ecosystem as a sort of means of securing that data in the long run. So fun way to get that data across. It alleviates the need for Amazon egress fees and things like that. So it's a sort of shared resource in the community that way. Caveat, it is large amounts of data. So do take a peek, see what you think about that. And that's all from me.
What's the size of it now? It's 3.5?
Yeah, so there's two versions. One is a Postgres snapshot of the Helium L1 ETL, and that is 3.1 terabytes. And then the transactions and blocks CSV exports, those are 724 gigabytes.
Perfect. Yeah, just making sure people have enough drive space to handle it. But yeah, I would absolutely appreciate it.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks, Joey. Okay, we're going to do a governance update now. Waveform, take it away.
Hi, yeah, there. So what I've been working on the last couple of weeks is documentation information that will eventually move to docs that covers everything you need to know about a particular network. So I've created a spreadsheet which has all the HIPs and all the events for each network in it. So it's kind of like a history list of the events and HIPs that affect each particular network. And then I've created a further document which goes into a bit more detail for those. So if somebody wanted to find out how, for instance, the mobile network has developed, can start to see the sequence of all the events and all the HIPs that have gone on since the very beginning of the network. It helps particularly when we say to people, "Hey, what's HIP 53? What's the mobile network?" And we direct them at HIP 53, and HIP 53 now has had 20 HIPs modifying it. So we need a lookup table of what's been modified, and eventually what we'll get then is a kind of one-page document, or maybe tabbed with sections that describe the whole network as a description. It's been called in the past as kind of like the constitution of the network, and then changes can be made against that constitution, and as the change is made, implemented, the constitution will change. So those are the first steps in the beginning of that we'd like to implement as a product that will be in our governance documentation. The other thing to cover, HIP 94, the witness rewarding from DISC 91. He's looking for developer commitment. If anybody really wants to support that, Foundation, Nova, or anybody could do this. Just please get in contact with DISC 91 on that one. The HIPs implemented, important ones this month, for example, is the mobile HIP, number 98, which gave us quality of service. 105, which modified the mobile hex limits for difference between Wi-Fi and CBRS. HIP 100, the one I wrote, which was the deploying the EU 868 regional frequency across most of Africa, and HIP 106, which was the migration of the bidirectional coverage requirement from the deny list into POC to make it very quick to identify where your bidirectional traffic isn't happening between witnessing and beacons. So you can see it isn't happening quickly, and you can fix what your deployment is failing on very quickly to return back to your POC earnings. And that's it for the moment on that section. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Waveform. I did post a couple of links to those HIPs in the chat, so if you want to read about them, feel free to click on those. Next up, we've got updates from the working groups. So first up, we've got an update from the IoT working group, and doing that today is Rioba. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Go ahead, Rioba.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I was thinking to mention about the HIPs, but Waveform told about them. It was 104 going live by the end of January, and this month we had 106. Actually, with 106, you can say that the general idea is to move the mature deny list classifiers to the POC pipeline. And the next one we want to move actually is the terrain intersection classifier. There's a draft. We are working on that. It's not complete yet, but the next step will be on that actually. So as long as the classifiers are mature enough and we trust them, and if the performance of the algorithms, etc., is okay, they will be moved to POC pipeline. About the deny list, Nova is putting a lot of effort actually there. There's a new classifier in the deny list for antenna splitter, and it is detecting the hotspots sharing the same antenna actually, and those hotspots are not denied. There is work on that to improve the algorithm, let's say version 2 of the classifier, and it should be going live soon as far as I know. During the weekly meetings, the team at the Nova told what they're working on about the deny list. I can name a couple of them. One is the idea detecting misassertions, and the other one is automated anomaly detection methods. Instead of developing classifiers, they are checking if there are ways to detect them automatically, the anomalies. And actually, I would like to thank them because they are putting really a huge effort there, and I honestly believe that they are making a real difference in the lives of the hotspot owners. And I know that they are paying a lot of attention to prevent false positives. Thank you, team, about that. I don't remember the date, but with HIP 91, the location assert cost was reduced to $5, and with the expiry of the HIP, it went back to $10. I'm mentioning it because there were talks to change the price to make it adaptive, but over the time, the authors decided not to continue with this work. So for the moment, there is no planned change for the location assert cost. And the last topic I would like to mention is about the working group itself, actually. We are trying to update our charter, and all of the members will expire, current members, and there will be new elections for 10 seats, actually. The election process will be similar to the mobile working group. We are just copying their working approach, actually. And the membership will be reset every 6 months for everyone. and the voting will be held on modular governance side. And we also think these are not certain yet, but we are discussing about them. We think that we should also pick a chair for the group to moderate the work. Actually, that's the idea. Because over the time we made some decisions, and we see that some fresh look from different people can actually help the IoT network. We believe that this change may provide that different look actually. And with that, actually, I would like to encourage everyone to consider joining the group. What it means to join the group, actually, it just means it may look like that you are only joining weekly calls and having some chat on the channel, but to be able to be productive, you may need to put extra effort and time of yours to do some work of those meetings, etc. And any experience on different parts of the network, some experience on sensors or hotspots or POC, I know that it would really help to the working group. And different people with different experience on different areas would really help to the group. The ability to code is not a mandatory thing, but it could definitely help to the group actually. And that's all, I guess. Thank you for your attention. I really look forward to seeing you face in the IoT working group.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryoba. That was a really thorough update. Appreciate it. And just to mention there that you can follow along with the discussion of the IoT working group. I put it in the chat in the channel hashtag IoT-working-group. You can follow along there. It's what we call a fishbowl channel. Also, the IoT working group meets weekly, Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you actually click on the events page in Discord, it'll show up in there in your local time. All right, thank you again. And next up, we've got the mobile working group update from Heated Lime.
Hey, Keenan, thanks. Yep, so the mobile working group, just to preface a little bit, is a think tank group, if I could talk, that we meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, I believe, where we just discuss potential HIP updates and potential ways to, benefit the mobile sub-DAO. We currently have a couple HIP concepts that we are working on. Mostly of them are sponsored by Nova. One of them is to revamp how service provider hex boosting works. There's another one to potentially use mobile to help reward referrals for Helium mobile subscribers as well. We did just undergo a new election. Our terms are every 6 months. And I believe they're rotating terms, so every 3 months there is an election. We have one new member, Sean Carey. I'm not sure if he's in the group or not, or in this discussion at all right now, but a little known fact about Sean. Sean actually is one of the Helium co-founders along with Amir. So he has quite an extensive background and has been pretty involved in the Helium community ever since the start. But yeah, come check us out and listen in and join us every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Heated Lime. Appreciate that update as well. If you want to stick up here, I know we're going to be coming back to you in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Cool. Next up, we've got, I believe, Hashcode. You wanted to jump up here.
Yeah, I wanted to chat a little bit about HIP process. One of the things that we've had a lot of activity in HIPs, a lot from the mobile group, and then more recently, some really interesting concepts coming out of the IoT side as well. And so I wanted to give folks just a sense of what the process is around creating HIPs and getting them tagged and things like that. Right now, the HIP process, all of our HIPs are in GitHub. If you go to github.com/helium/HIP, That's where all the hips are sort of organized. They are numbered, and our HIP process is very similar, or is somewhat similar to the EIP process or the BIP process, except there aren't a lot of folks who are actually moderating those things. Typically, it's actually just me and Waveform. And I think one of the things that folks have wondered about is how are hips numbered, how are they organized, how do channels get made. Generally speaking, we want to make sure that a hip, when it's opened in a pull request, is well formed and follows sort of all the things that we expect these hips to have that were defined in HIP 7, and that's how you sort of write a hip. And so, things like making sure all the sections have a decent explanation, appropriate pros and cons for voter clarity. It doesn't have to be complete. All the ideas don't need to be final when it's landed and given a number, but it should at least have, a good amount of information in it for folks to understand where the conversation is starting. And so I think that's something that, I'd like to, it'll only get harder as the community expands. We are considering reopening our governance manager role sometime later this year to help manage this process. So it's not, one or two people that are also doing a couple of other day jobs while doing this. So that's roughly the process. I just wanted to sort of remind folks what that was. But if it's an idea that doesn't really have all of the details worked out or doesn't have all the parts of the HIP filled out, it's perfectly okay for us to use threads here in Discord or forums here in Discord. In fact, I encourage it, and I know that some HIPs have iterated that way. Some HIPs are iterated inside of the working groups. All these things are perfectly reasonable and the right thing to do, in my opinion. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of mention that. Also, the last thing, a couple of HIPs have recently had this concept of contributors versus authors. I do want to make sure before a HIP is numbered and landed that all of the authors sort of acknowledge that this is ready for landing as a HIP. And so that might be a process that we'll add to the pull request queue on GitHub. And Andrew's great question, do we have the budget for this new position? I think it's something that we need to start thinking about, and we need to figure it out. I think it is important for the community that there is someone who is paid to specifically work on, governance related matters. I think, the fact that you have a mix of me and Waveform doing this as part of our day jobs isn't sufficient, especially as the community grows. So we need to find a way.
Cool, thank you. Did you have any PRs that were going to be talked about? Specific PRs?
Waveform, do we have any that are in queue?
I just left it open in case there's any that you do want to talk about.
Oh, got it. I think there's a couple that are interesting worth thinking about. There's the mobile HIP around changing governance. I think I was talking to Max about this, I think as most recently as yesterday. I think there's some more work to be done there, some more data that'll be added. Max actually already mentioned it in the PR comment thread. So like the latest information is there. There are a couple of other HIP PRs that are likely to be closed. I think we tagged all of them yesterday. There are some open ideas around modifying hex boosting that have a couple of more updates. And then there's a new just yesterday around mobile makers. I think it's pretty interesting. One thing that I will say, and I think this might be worthwhile to talk about during voice chat later today, and I'll hop on later, is the fact that we have an onboarding server on the network is, I think, it's a vestige of where we started as a network, and I'd love for a lot of that to be on chain instead. And I think this PR that was open yesterday, this is PR 921, is the beginning of something I'm actually pretty excited about that idea.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate the update there.
I was just talking to Heated Lime, and he can update you later. He says he's going to do a further update to that later today.
Okay, we're going to move on to HIPs expected next for voting. So, first up, we've got mobile HIP 107, deterring gaming through verification fees. Heated Lime.
Yes, so that the name actually has changed on that sense. That was the original name and original concept of the HIP. It got revamped through different iterations of it, but the theme of it and the gist of it is going to be giving Nova the power to temporarily ban or deactivate hotspots that they suspect of gaming. There's going to be strict requirements where the deactivation cannot be longer than 10 days. The reason for deactivation as well as the deactivation length needs to be reported to the mobile oracle, so that is public, that if somebody's hotspot is deactivated, that they know the reason for it. Just because we noticed, or Nova has started to notice a lot of gaming within the mobile ecosystem, and due to the token being listed on multiple exchanges, there's a lot more interest, and thus kind of opens the venue to more gaming. So this HIP kind of just gives service providers, aka Nova and Helium Mobile, the tools needed to ban and deactivate hotspots that they have evidence that they're gaming.
I just posted a link in the chat as well. Is the updated wording, is that correct? Preventing gaming within the mobile subDAO?
Yep, that's it.
Got it. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Next up, HIPs implemented. Mobile HIP 98. Mobile QoS.
Yep, so HIP 98 reiterates the mobile speed test requirements needed to get the max multiplier for mobile rewards. There was one additional update within the HIP that's different than what the previous speed test requirements were. This HIP adds a third tier of speed test with a multiplier 0.75. So in instances where somebody wasn't meeting the speed test requirements just by 1 megabyte per second or just by some small amount, the rewards would instantly be halved. Right now, since this HIP was implemented, now instead they'll be getting 75% rewards instead of 50% rewards. So it just kind of lessens the penalty if you're just missing the speed test barely. And yeah, that's what the HIP's about.
And what was the speed test requirements before and after?
Yeah, so to receive max rewards, it's 100 megabytes per second download speed, 10 upload, and then 50 for latency. And then that's for the max rewards, 1x multiplier. The next multiplier down was 50%, and I believe that was 50. I'm honestly not even sure what the previous ones were for that, but it adds a third tier to reward for 75%, so just lessens the penalty.
Got it. Okay, appreciate it. And mobile HIP 105, modify mobile hex limits.
Yep. So 105 previously, as noted in HIP 85, HIP 85 limited the amounts of radio signals per res 12 hex to 3. These radio signals were classified as Wi-Fi signal and CBRS signals. So if you had overlapping coverage of CBRS and Wi-Fi, you would be penalized and you would only be rewarded up to the top 3 signals. HIP 105 delineates and separates Wi-Fi radios from CBRS radios. So you can have one CBRS radio signal and one Wi-Fi radio signal within the same res 12 hex and still be rewarded full model coverage points.
Cool, thank you. And also, moving along to mobile HIP 103, mobile Oracle hex boosting. Now I've got you Heated Lime up here as well. Is Zero Tweets around to talk about it? Doesn't
I don't know, or else Mad Ninja. I can give a brief update. I believe Matt Ninja said that the first oracle, so HIP 103 creates 3 oracles that will boost or not boost, reduce rewards for model coverage points for the mobile sub-DAO. The first oracle is the urbanization oracle. That's scheduled to be implemented, I believe, within the next couple of weeks. I think Mad Ninja said early March. And then the estimated time frame for each other oracle is 1 month after the previous oracle was implemented.
Cool. Thank you again. We have no hips failed, so we're going to skip that. Recent hips. So mobile hip 108, mobile hotspot suspension framework. Now this one is from Zero Tweets. So I just pinged him to see if he's available to speak on it. Heated Lime, while you're here, I don't know if you have any, you can discuss it if you like as well.
Yeah, so HIP 107 has a lot of overlap with HIP 108. So pending the outcome of HIP 107, when that goes about, HIP 108 may just be noted as stale and closed out. If HIP 107 fails, there might be some tweaks in 108 and put to vote. But I think 108, the outcome really relies upon the results of HIP 107 voting.
Got it, I see. Okay. Appreciate it, thank you. Okay, we're nearing the end here. So we'll have some time for questions. Does anyone have any questions that they want to pop in the chat? We can get to those.
Hey, I have a question for Abai. I posted this in the foundation channel, and I think he said that the foundation would potentially be interested in this, but I know a lot of community members were kind of frustrated with HIP 105 and how it kind of nerfs rural rewards for mobile deployments. And rereading the foundation's mission statement to kind of connect the unconnected, would the foundation be interested in using some of the money, some of the mobile that they received during the pre-mine as sort of a grant to become a service provider on the mobile sub-DAO, to potentially create a WISP entity to encourage rural deployments to connect rural areas with internet access?
I think that's super interesting, actually. There's sort of 2 parts of this, right? There's one part of this, which is, could we use part of the mobile treasury, the ops fund effectively, to sort of create a brand new service provider. And the service provider, might be one that just kind of lives alongside Helium Mobile, but has kind of different goals. Maybe boosts different kinds of hexes, the ones in rural areas rather than in urban areas. Maybe it's a CBRS only service provider. Maybe it's a CBRS and Wi-Fi service provider. I think these are all like interesting questions, and I'd like to, love to talk to folks in the community about what that could look like. One thing about the foundation that is important is that we're not intended to be a for-profit entity, and I wouldn't want to do anything directly as the foundation if it would risk that. There are particular rules that we need to think about. We can't be an investment company, we can't be a for-profit entity, but we can have we can do things that can generate profit. Like that's fine. It just can't be our primary goal, right? And that's not really what we're here for. But we could spin off entities that could do that. We do have some expertise in the foundation to be able to build things in this space. So definitely interesting. As far as rural areas, there's sort of 2 parts of this. I think one part of this is around cellular connectivity and device connectivity, and the other part is around backhaul. And I think CBRS is interesting as a technology for both of those things. And I think fixed wireless is actually really kind of an interesting direction that we could take. There are a lot of radios that have that are out there, owned by people that are in the Helium network, many of them deployed, many of them not deployed, and they could be very good, point-to-point backhaul nodes as well. And so that is like outside of the scope, I think, of the mobile network, but could be in scope of Helium as a whole. And I've talked about this a little bit around this concept of how do you get backhaul to remote sites, and for both IoT and for cellular coverage. So yeah, like kind of interested in exploring this more. Currently, the foundation would be up for using part of the operations fund for it, and the way we would do it is probably spin off an entity that would work on just that.
Cool. Thank you.
We'll just pause here for a second and you can take a look through the chat and see if there's any questions that we want to address. Okay, it doesn't look like anything that's going to be brought up on stage. It looks like we're just having conversations here. So, does anyone have anything else? Just a last call. Okay, so it seems like we're at the end of our call. So just a couple reminders. The next call will be, let me just pull this up to make sure, Wednesday, March the 27th. Now, there is a North American time change happening on March 10th. We are moving forward 1 hour, spring forward. Yeah, that's it. So just bear that in mind. The events, I'll need to update them to make sure they're correct. But the call will still be Wednesday the 27th at, for me, noon Eastern time zone. The events page will be updated to reflect your time zone. Just another reminder, this call has been recorded. It will be posted on Helium Foundation YouTube, as well as Governance General here in the Discord, so you can listen to it again. If there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Waveform in the Discord. You can just message us in public and ask us whatever you need to do. One last reminder, we will not DM you. If there is anyone DMing you, sending you messages, adding you as a friend, it is almost guaranteed to be a scam. So please, please, please be careful about that. And that brings us to the end of this call. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you all of the contributors, and we will see you again next month. All right. Hope everyone has a great week. See you, everyone.